بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. My name is Shahid Ashraf, and I'll be hosting today's event, inshallah. Jazakallah khair for coming down. So the talk today will be on carrying the Islamic legacy of academia, and hopefully it will be beneficial, inshallah. As you all know, we're all in higher education right now, but it's so easy to forget why our intentions are for doing so, inshallah. So this talk will aim to remind us that seeking knowledge isn't mutually exclusive to our worship, and hopefully you'll see that there's a lot of barakah in it. As always, we start with the words of Allah. So I'd like to invite Musa to recite a couple passages for us. Apologies for the delay. We're still waiting on Musa for the recitation. Inshallah. Okay, so it seems Musa's not available right now, so Munsif, if you could take up the play.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قد أفلح المؤمنون الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون والذين هم عن اللغو معرضون والذين هم للزكاة فاعلون والذين هم لفروجهم حافظون إلا على أزواجهم أو ما ملكت أيمانهم فإنهم غير ملومين فمن ابتغى وراء ذلك فأولئك هم العادون والذين هم لأماناتهم وأهدهم راعون والذين هم على صلواتهم يحافظون أولئك هم الوارثون الذين يرثون الفردوس هم فيها خالدون ولقد خلقنا الإنسان من سلالة من طين ثم جعلناه نطفة فيه قرار مكين ثم خلقنا النطفة علقة فخلقنا العلقة مضغة فخلقنا المضغة عظاما فكسونا العظام لحما ثم أنشأناه خلقا آخر فتبارك الله أحسن الخالقين صدق الله العظيم.
Jazakallah khair, Munsif, for that beautiful recitation. Just before we begin, could I please remind everyone to turn off your cameras and mics just to ensure that the speaker isn't interrupted. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and there'll be a Q&A at the end, and inshallah we'll try and answer as much as we can. So as some of you might already know, our speaker today is a graduate from St. George's, a GP, a medical tutor, Islamic historian, and the Vice President of the British Islamic Medical Association, and also the founder of CW, or Charity Week. So could I ask all of you to join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Wajid Akhter. Assalamu alaikum, Doctor.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Just share my screen. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam wa ashraf al-anbiya wa mursalin nabiyana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam alayhi tasliman jami'an kathira. Jazakallah khairan for inviting me to share a few words on carrying the Islamic legacy of academia. I guess the first question that we have to ask is why? Why is this topic one that's of interest? Why is it of interest to you guys specifically? And the answer to that question for me is your context. You all sometimes have no idea about your place in the Muslim world as a whole. You are, whether you like it or not, some of the most educated Muslims on the whole of planet Earth. Now, you might not think you are, because you might think, well, there's always someone smarter, but look at it this way. 45% of all Muslims are illiterate. 45%. So already you're in the top half of Muslims. Out of those top half, many of them are just literate. So they can read and write, and that's it. So even fewer of those ever go on to higher education. Out of those who go into higher education, very few go into higher education at universities which have any standing whatsoever in the world. And out of those, even fewer go on to higher education in a good university. And out of those, very few go into higher education in one of the top 10 universities on earth. And that's what you guys are doing. At UCL, which is one of the top 10 or top 20 universities on earth, it's not just one of the Russell Group universities, it's one of the foremost Russell Group universities. You are being taught by people who write books in that field. You are being taught by the experts. People who go to your university go on to get Nobel Prizes and run institutes or countries sometimes. If you look just down the road at the London School of Economics, at every year they have at least one king, president, or prime minister amongst their students. And you have everyone from the Dalai Lama to former presidents coming and speaking at their university. So you guys are in the creme de la creme of Muslim educated Muslims out there. And out of those Muslims who happen to be lucky enough to get an education at UCL, many of them are far away from Islam, not maybe by choice, but maybe because of their family background or the opportunities they had. But you guys, alhamdulillah, have some attachment to the deen and also to dunya. You are the elite. You know how they were having those protests a few years ago about the top 1%? Well, you're like the top 1%. You're like the 0.001% of the Muslim Ummah. So now that you know who you are, and this is not I'm not stating my opinion. This is just a fact that you have to deal with, that you are the top 1%. Well, what you've just realized, what I've just told you, if you haven't realized it yet, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you a huge ni'mah, a huge blessing. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives anyone a huge blessing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the just. He will take account of that huge blessing. So tell me, what did you do with this world-leading education that I allowed you to have? Tell me, what did you do for all the other people? Explain to me what you did with this knowledge that you have that other people would die for, and literally are dying for, are putting themselves and their families on boats on the Mediterranean and trying somehow on rubber dinghies, trying to get across to the other side and then drowning and dying. You're dying for the opportunity that you have every morning when you wake up. What have you done with it? I'm hoping that in these next 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I will give you a way of answering that question, inshallah. What is the Islamic legacy of academia? What is it about? What does it mean to be a Muslim academic? Because it has to mean something different to being a non-Muslim academic. If it meant the same thing, then what's the point of being a Muslim, right? If it doesn't make a difference whether you're a Buddhist or a Sikh or an atheist or a Christian or a Hindu or Muslim academic, then why does it make a difference if you're either any of those religions? So there must be a difference. There must be a difference. So let me introduce you to what that difference might be. Firstly, Islam, this is really important because we live in our bubble. So I'm trying constantly to get you to think outside your bubble. The value of knowledge. Now, you might think, I get it, I value knowledge. Why would anyone not value knowledge? But that's not the default position of religions across the world or through time. The default position of religions through time and across the world, when it comes to knowledge, has been one of acrimony. There's secular knowledge, there's scientific knowledge, and there's religious knowledge, and those two don't mix. Quite often, scientific knowledge, secular knowledge, it seems to negate religious knowledge. So people want to, so religion tends to push that away. That's why in the West, in Europe, they had the Renaissance because they had to have a Renaissance because in order to bring across the age of enlightenment, you had to leave the age of religion, of dogma, of superstition, of persecution of science. So Islam is different though. Islam is very different. If you want to know how different Islam is, then listen to these words. In Sahih al-Bukhari, the Prophet ﷺ said that when a man dies, all his deeds come to an end except for three: an ongoing charity, beneficial knowledge, and a righteous son who prays for him. One of the three things that will survive you, that will help you afterwards, is beneficial knowledge. So it's placing knowledge at a plateau, but you don't need to just go in Sahih Bukhari. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Allah raises of those who believe and those who have been given knowledge many levels. Those who have been given knowledge are raised many levels. And it's again, it's written in the Quran, Rabbi zidni ilman, right? And so on and so forth. In fact, knowledge is, Islam is the only faith which tells people, think. Usually, faith by definition means don't use your brain. By definition, if you have faith in something, I have faith, you take it on faith. That means you don't need to engage the brain here. You engage the heart, because that's where faith comes from. Islam is the only religion that tells you engage your brain. In the Quran, Allah SWT says again and again and again, so ponder if you are one of the ponderers or one of the reflect if you're one of the reflectors. Think, ponder, reflect, read, consider, look at the stars, look at the nature. It says again and again, this is the only religion that tells you don't switch off your brain, switch it on. Look, learn, listen, read, and then you will believe as well from your heart. You need both. So the value of knowledge in Islam is huge. And for me, one of the beautiful ways of understanding what the value of knowledge in Islam is in Sahih Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ says, whoever reads the Quran and stutters while reading, Whoever reads the Quran and stutters while reading. In other religions, they say, why are you reading? Well, Zaleen, you don't even know how to say da? What's wrong with you? Be quiet. Whoever reads the Quran and stutters while reading will receive double reward. Not half the reward, not a sin, double the reward, because the more you persevere, the more difficult the knowledge you persevere in, the more difficult the path that you go on to seek that knowledge, the more reward you get. The value of knowledge. So when you're a Muslim academic, you should be proud that this is one of the proofs of Islam, that Islam has put science, knowledge right at the top. It has made it compatible with our faith, not incompatible. Not like when other religions, for example, we all know the story of Galileo, right? Galileo got persecuted. Galileo got persecuted and imprisoned for what? For simply saying that he had a different idea of how the planets move across the solar system. There's a really good saying I want you to remember, which is science tells you, religion tells you how to go to heaven, and science tells you how the heavens go. Religion tells you how to go to heaven, and science tells you how the heavens go. It's a really good example of what Islam is about. Islam is that beautiful melding of the both, and it produces academics with faith. In fact, one of the in America, and this is one of the things you need to realize. You need to ask yourself, why is Google in America? Why is Facebook in America? Why is NASA in America? Why is Apple in America? There must be something about them that makes them innovative. There must be something about them that makes them at the cutting edge. These guys, if you don't know this, you should know this. In America, the American government, whether it's the State Department or the Department of Defense, they actually have days where they study things, right? So they had a day where they study Islam. And this is not like, 5 pillars type stuff. No. They're going into depth. In one of those days, one of the scientists who they brought on, non-Muslim scientists, said that, look, for Islamic scholars, reason, intellect, aql, is God's gift to human being. And God wants it to be used effectively. It is not a curse, it is a gift, and it should be used effectively. So Muslims throughout centuries in science have tried to be smarter and more intelligent, because this is a way of thanking Allah for giving them a brain big enough to do that. Do you do that? Or do you try to scrape by with the basic level of intellect, with the basic exam results? Do you try to break the boundaries of science? Do you try to break the boundaries of wherever you are? Are you trying to be a disruptor? Are you trying to be someone who is thinking outside the box? Or are you literally just trying to pass as easily as you can so that you can get out of your university and get that rishta that was the plan in the first place? Ask yourself that question. Honesty. This is a very key feature. The higher you go in academics, the higher you go in anything, you will see that not only does the air get thin, but honesty, it disappears. It is rare to find honesty at high levels, because you often have to backstab and be ruthless to get there. And academia is no different. When you'll see, like in medical academia, you as a junior doctor or as a junior medical student, you will do all the work. You will write the paper. You'll do everything, and then your professor, who did absolutely nothing, didn't guide you, didn't help you, didn't do a single thing, will insist that his name or her name will be on first author or second author, or so will the research person. People will do this all the time. They'll be taking credit for your work. They'll be belittling you. You'll work hard, you'll get a grant, and then the person will take over. That's not how it works in Islam. In Islam, it's literally the opposite. And I'll give you an example. In Islam, there's different types of medicine. And in Islam, we call it tib. For example, tib Yunani. What does tib Yunani mean? Greek medicine. Tib Hindi. Indian medicine. I mean, we took that from the Hindus, or we took it from the Greeks, but after all this time, we could have just changed the name. We could have called it Islamic medicine. No one would know. Nobody would care. I mean, even if they knew, who cares? We are writing the books. We'll just say we did it. But no, we gave them credit. You know, on a clock, you'll see the numbers. What are they called? They're called Arabic numerals, right? Because it was taken from the Arab world. But the Arabs don't call it Arabic numerals. Muslims called it their Hindi, because we took it from the Indians, especially the zero. They gave credit to Aristotle and to Plato and all those things. So in Islam, we acknowledge our sources. And one of the best ways to think about that, is Islam is against trying to get too much, is against pride. So a really good example is the Taj Mahal or any beautiful Islamic building that you find. Go look around and eventually you will find something wrong. You will find a tile that's upside down. I mean, it's clearly upside down. You'd be like, what in the world happened here? So you're telling me these guys spent all this money building the Taj Mahal, they did all this, everything is symmetrical, and then they put this tile upside down. Did no one find it? And no one think, I found it. And you'll find it everywhere. Why? Because Islamic architects, when they were building something beautiful, in order to be humble, to show humility, they said no. They don't want people to say this is perfect, because perfection is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they would deliberately leave a mistake, deliberately, to show humility that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is perfect. Similarly, what do Ibn Sina, Ibn Khaldun, Ibn Rushd, what do all these people have in common? Ibn Haytham, Ibn Hazm, what do all these people have in common? Ibn, you don't know their real name. You know their fathers' names. Because again, in Islam, you are not Mr. Big Shot who went to UCL and earned your degree. If it wasn't for your parents, you would be nothing. You wouldn't be here. So acknowledge your parents. Your work goes under their name. And your children's work will go under your name, inshallah. But you are your parents' legacy. You are their product. You are their inheritor. And therefore, it's Ibn Haytham. We don't even know what Ibn Haytham's name is. Or it'll go by your city's name, Al-Bukhari, yeah, Al-Khwarizmi, and so on. Intellectual honesty is a core principle of Islam. Please, when you get into a position, be someone who shares the plaudits, shares the rewards with others. Be generous with it, and don't be someone who rushes to take ownership of something. That is not from our academic tradition, Islamic tradition. Okay, what about diversity? Islamic intellectual tradition, it values diversity, unlike most other traditions, which didn't used to. I mean, now they do. I mean, that's why a lot of the West has progressed, because, Apple is made by Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is the son of a Syrian immigrant. Google is made by the son of Russian immigrants, and so on and so forth, right? They've taken immigrants and they have said, we're going to value you based on your brain, not on your skin color, and not on your religion or your passport. And they have progressed. That's what Muslims used to do. Musa ibn Maymun was one of the greatest Jewish philosophers that ever lived. Ever lived. I'm not saying he's the greatest of his time. If they had the top 5 Jewish intellectuals of all time, Musa ibn Maymun would be one of them, guaranteed. His name was Maimonides, and his first language was Arabic, because Islam gave opportunities to everyone, regardless of your religion or your color or whatever. So even gender. Let me tell you the story of Lady Montagu. Lady Montagu was the wife of the British ambassador to the Ottoman Empire. So she's not off the street. She's like the wife of an ambassador. She's an aristocrat. Her friend was the princess and then became Queen of England. She's well connected. And Lady Montagu noted that in the Ottoman Empire, smallpox wasn't as big a thing as it is in England. In England, it was killing many people, and those that didn't kill would scar for life on their face. That's why they put all this white powder everywhere to hide the pock marks all over their skin when they got smallpox, if they survived. So she was like, why aren't the Muslims getting it? So she saw that what they used to do was they used to take a thorn, put it into cowpox, which is very mild form of smallpox, type of smallpox, and then they would introduce it into the skin of other people, and that would be like a type of vaccination, which we call variolation. She said, wow, this is fantastic. She had her son have it. Then she went back to England and she told everyone, you must do this. This is fantastic. This is amazing. And they didn't listen to her. They didn't listen to her. They're like, listen, you're rich, you're powerful, you're well-connected, but you have a fatal flaw. And what's that fatal flaw? You're a woman. How dare you talk to us about science? What do you know about science? Be quiet. Get lost. They didn't listen to her. And when she, at many decades later, around the time that she died, a young boy called Edward Jenner was growing up. And Edward Jenner, when he grew up, he saw the same thing. He saw that the milkmaids in this country, the milkmaids never got cowpox. And he came to the same conclusion about variolation. And they said, you sir, father of vaccination, and Edward Jenner's statue is in St. George's in my university, and even the cow, even the damn cow, they have the skin of the cow is up in the university at St. George's. The first cow that they say that's where vaccination started. It's not where it started. But you ignored her because she was a woman, and you ignored them because they were Muslim. What is the Muslim tradition? The oldest university in the world was established by Fatima al-Fihri, a woman. And nobody turns around and says, well, it was established by her dad, it was her dad's money, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing like that. The Sultan of Morocco could have taken it over and said, well, I established it, and just erase her from memory. What would she do? She was a refugee, by the way. What would she do? But she established that University of Qayrawan. You can go and see it. It's beautiful. I recommend going to Fez. If you've never been there, go and look at it. Obviously, it's not a university, it's a mosque now. It's got a library attached to it. But it's very beautiful, very scenic. But what you didn't know was that she had a sister, Maryam, and her sister also established exactly the same. So it wasn't like one sister did it and the other sister was like, well, if you're going to do one, I'm going to do one. So if you walk 5 minutes down the road, there's the Masjid al-Andalus, which she established as well. Her sister established. It's a diversity in Islam. We have more Islamic female scholars right now in Islam, in our history, than I think you could put all the other civilizations together. They wouldn't have as many scholars as we have. Female scholars, I mean. That's not saying that we are doing a good job now. We're doing a terrible job right now with regards to educating our sisters, but that's not what we were like. And there are others like Maryam Astrolabi and others. Humility, I talked to you already about humility, like making mistakes in your designs to show that it's not, that you're not like the best at everything. And this is, again, it fits in with the, not taking ownership of things. Being humble when you are smart is very difficult to do because you are arrogant without even realizing it. You might not think it, but I guarantee you, if you have friends from back in the day when school or whatever, who didn't go to university, every single one of them probably thinks that you are a stuck-up git. Every one of them thinks you're arrogant. And you'll be like, why? What did I do? What did I say? You don't have to do or say anything. But because if you meet someone that is a lot smarter than you, a lot more intelligent, has done a lot more, maybe a lot richer, you always think there's going to be a degree of arrogance there. You assume that. Things that they say that they can't even think about, you'll think, oh God, that is such typical arrogant. You have to go out of your way to be humble. You have to go out of your way to show humility, to show respect for your elders. We see it all the time, right? Yes, there are reasons for us to be upset at our elders. The way that they run the masjids, the way that they run the committees, they don't let go. But the way we talk about them is as if they're trash. Ask them. Oh, for God's sake, I don't know anything. And imagine if you right now were transplanted to Japan. No money, you're in Japan. Now go make a life for yourself, learn fluent Japanese, and build the masjids, and make all the halal restaurants, and make all the Islamic schools and the madrasas, and etc., and fight against any racism and corruption, and start from zero and build yourself up in the background of racism. You try to do that. I dare you. I think we will be mincemeat, and we will be on the first boat, train, plane back home. We'll swim it if we have to. Our parents, our grandparents who came here and built the infrastructure that we live off have done a fantastic job. But it's difficult to respect someone who talks in the, with the heavy accent, and they don't know how to use the good word. Like, we make fun of them because they're that heavy accent. They don't know how to use the words. Look at the clothes that they wear. Like we're super fly, and we make sure, we got our money or whatever on point, and the labels are showing. I mean, look at them. They don't even, it's not even fitting properly. They don't know what they're doing. Do you see where that comes from? There's a level of humility in Islam. In Islam, you always have a teacher, someone who's better than you, someone who's superior than you. And we've seen this in Surah Kahf. Musa Isam was once giving a khutbah. Musa Isam is a prophet, right? He is a prophet. He's not just average person. He is a prophet. And he's not just any prophet. He is literally one of the greatest of prophets. He is Kalimullah. He's the one who's spoken to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when someone from Bani Israel asked him and said, who's the smartest, wisest person in the world? Musa Isam quite reasonably said, me, of course. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him off. Who told you were the smartest person? I told you were a prophet. I didn't say anything about you being the smartest person in the world. I'm paraphrasing, of course. Musa Isam immediately apologized. I assumed. No, don't assume. Who is the smartest person in the world? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed Musa Isam a picture of Khidr. And what did Musa Isam go? Yeah, he looks like a nerd. Whatever. Anyway, time to get back to my prophet business. No, I want to find him. He's smarter than me. I want to learn from him. And even though Khidr when after all this long journey, Musa Isam found Khidr. Musa Isam said, can I spend some time with you? Khidr was like, no. Can you imagine saying no to Musa Isam? I want to spend time with you. We would beg to spend just like, can I be on the same planet as you? And he turns around, Khidr turns around and said, no, you can't spend time with me. And what was his reason? You can't handle my knowledge. So he literally, like, imagine if someone said that to you. You would say, hey, can you teach me something? He goes, nah, you can't handle it. You're too stupid. What? You'd hate them. Musa Isam persevered. Humility, my brothers and sisters. Humility will get you everywhere. It's extremely attractive, and it's extremely useful in academia. I'm going to finish now because I know I've gone over my time. Last couple of things. In Islam, we have something called the challenger spirit. What does a challenger spirit mean? That means that in Islam, we have great respect for people who came before us, but we're here to flip the table. We're here to change the game. We're here to extend the boundaries. We're not here to just do what everyone else has done before us. That's not what we're here for. That's not what Islam is about. And that's not what Islamic academics are about. There's no other religion where your own prophet has told you directly that there's a cure for every disease except death. I mean, he's told you there's a cure, so get on with it. There's a cure for cancer. We should be racing for it. Well, everyone else is like, is there a cure for cancer? Will there be a cure for cancer? Can we find a cure for COVID? We'll be like, no, there is guaranteed to be a cure. We will find it, inshallah. There's no other religion like that. So there's a guy called Galen. Galen was the ancient Greek, proto-doctor. He was the person who basically in ancient times, everyone looked up to as like, that is like the pinnacle, the peak of being a doctor. This guy was it. Like if Galen said it, it was done. And Galen was wrong about a lot of things, but nobody argued with him because everyone who came, wherever they were in the world, was just like, Galen said it, so it's fact. Galen used to think that the blood in the heart, because he noticed that, there's oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. He would think that the blood would get through between the ventricles of the heart, the ventricular wall, that it would go through the septal wall. It would pass through micropores that you can't see. So that the blood would go from one side of the heart to the other. That's how it would go. Everyone accepted it except Ibn Nafis. Ibn Nafis turned around and said, I love Galen, but this doesn't work out. It's wrong. So I'm going to try find another way. And he found out the pulmonary circulation of the human body, the circulatory system. He discovered it 400 years before William Harvey was born. But everyone says William Harvey did it. William Harvey did not do it. Ibn Nafis did it. And he did it by proving Galen wrong. And what did he do when he wrote in his book? He didn't write, ha ha ha, look what I've done. I've proven Galen wrong. Galen was an idiot. Listen to me. I'm the genius. No, he said that the blood pumps around the body from one chamber of the heart to the other, not directly, but indirectly through the pulmonary circulation system, and not directly, as has been mentioned by some people previously. He didn't even mention Galen's name. Galen was dead. Galen wasn't around. Greek civilization was gone. It was the Roman Empire now. They didn't have to, and Muslims were at war with the Roman Empire every other day. So he had no reason whatsoever to be kind or nice to Galen, but that's Islamic science, Islamic academia. We don't trash people when we don't need to. We don't belittle them. We don't say, oh, African science, oh, whatever, African medicine, or is this Chinese engineering? Oh, well, no, we don't do that. That's not from our adab. That's not from our academic excellence. We know that what we built was based on those who came from before us, and we respect that. We don't trash it. Even when we're proving them wrong, we do it respectfully. That is a challenger spirit of Islam. And the challenger spirit comes down to, it's this concept of once a Khalif, he wanted to find out how wide the world is, what's the circumference of the world. So they went out and they decided to measure it. And they measured, like they took a piece of rope and they went as far as they could until they went 1 degree forward according to a star. And look at how smart this is. Even we can relate to this, right? 1 degree forward, they measured the distance. And then they multiplied it by 360 because there's 360 degrees in a circle. And they got the distance within 5-10 kilometers or a few hundred kilometers. It's accurate to this day according to scientific measurements. And what was even cooler was when those guys came back, because they measured, they walked literally like 50, 60, 70 miles in the desert one way, and then they walked back 50, 60, 70 miles the other way. When they came back with the measurement, there was a guy called Al-Biruni who was standing there, and he was like, I don't need to walk in a desert. You could just, here's the equation, here's the answer. And they were like, yeah, thanks, Biruni. You could have told us it before we went walking for 120 miles. But it shows you the intellectual level of Islamic civilization. And Al-Biruni wasn't just a great mathematician. Al-Biruni wrote the greatest pharmacy encyclopedia for 500 years. Al-Biruni was a philosopher. Al-Biruni was a poet. Al-Biruni was a mathematician. He was a logistician. These guys are doing like 20 different things, which links into this is called the scientific method. Before Islamic academia came around, people would just assume something and then try to prove it, see if it was, see if anything can disprove it. When Islamic academia came along, we had hypotheses, literally the scientific method of the world. How you do anything scientifically is called a scientific method, is that you have a hypothesis, and if you have a hypothesis, then you do a experiment that either proves or disproves the hypotheses, and then you repeat it to account for variability. That is the scientific method, and Muslims invented that. Muslims invented that method, and it's used in historiography, it's used in science, it's used in everything now. So this was something that Muslims had invented. Repeatability. Finally, interdisciplinary wisdom. the coolest things in academia happen not in a field, but what happens when two things mix in the in-between part. It's in the in-between parts that really interesting things happen. And you see this, right? If any of you Google Apple's new headquarters in Cupertino, California, you'll see that they built it like a huge circle. And the design philosophy behind Apple's headquarters is to try and increase the number of times different employees from different sections will meet each other randomly in hallways, in cafeteria, in the car park, and everything. They want to increase people meeting each other so that it's bouncing ideas off each other, because that's where Gmail came from. That's where Google Drive came from. That's where so many cool ideas come from. When you have an artist and a scientist meeting, when you have a musician and an engineering person meetings, you get cool ideas coming together. The bullet train was developed when a bird ornithologist, I think they are, the bird scientist, and an engineering person came together, and they're like, what is it that makes some birds faster than others? And then they went and that's one of the ways the bullet train came about. So all this was part of Islamic science. Bayt al-Hikmah was a house of wisdom. What's made that the house of wisdom and everything else not the house of wisdom? That was because you had everyone there. You had the Greeks, the Indians, the Arabs, the Chinese. You had the translators. You had the mathematicians, the biologists, the scientists, everyone, the scholars, ulama. They were all there. So things were bouncing, ideas were bouncing off each other all the time. Interdisciplinary wisdom. This is what we are about. Do you do that? Have you sat down with people outside your field? As an Islamic society, do you reach out beyond the ISOC, or are we a clique? The same 20, 30 people come to every talk, but never anyone else. So what happened to us? That was us, but that's not who we are right now. What happened is that we lost Islam. You know that saying, right, of Umar Anhu, that we were a people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed and gave dignity through Islam. And if we lose Islam, then we will lose our dignity. We'll be humiliated. And that's exactly what happened to us. We lost Islam. We turned Islam. You know what we turned Islam into? We turned Islam into just the beard. We turned Islam into the hijab. We turned Islam into just prayers. This is also Islam. Honesty is Islam. Intellectual adventurism, that is Islam as well. That's part of our religion. Otherwise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have just sent us in the Quran, He would have just given us a manual on how to pray and how to fast, and that's it. And that's what we made it into. This is Islam. Being someone who uses their intellect for the betterment of humanity. Does any one of us think that the solution to climate change will come from the Muslims? Not a single one of us will think that. Why? What in the world are Muslims doing right now? Does any one of us think that we don't even make one electric car between the whole of humanity? I mean, Turkey is going to now. We've got to, like there's real problems that we have. We have a huge amount of talent and energy and thought in the Muslim world, and we can build something beautiful. We can help society and we can help ourselves. But in order to do that, we need to first be good Muslims. We need to remember why we're doing it. Remember the why at the beginning? Why are we doing this? For our personal glory, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will humiliate us. But because we want to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the blessings that He's given us, and we want to use it in the service of humanity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah will open the road for us. One person, one of my students, many years younger than me, once asked, he goes, I really hate it that we don't give any value to the arts in Muslim society. He's an artistic person. He loved arts, and he was like, it really upsets me. I was like, look, brother, when your stomach is empty, you don't have time to be an artist. When you have no safety for you and your family, you're not thinking about building beautiful buildings. When you're worried about corruption, just eking out a living from one day to the next, you're not going to be worried about writing a great book. These things come from a stable society, from a secure society, from a confident society. And in order to build that society, we need to be Muslims first, good Muslims, And then we need to work together. We need to unite and rebuild our world in a better way so that we can go back to contributing to humanity and glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, both in our prayers and in our lives. Sorry, I took much longer than I was intending to.
No, thank you. It was very beneficial. I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of all of us when we say that it was a very insightful talk. Inshallah, we can try to put some of the things you spoke about into our approach to studying. I just have some questions in Slido that I want to ask you. So firstly, how can Muslims truly be the best at anything in the modern world, especially as most kuffar will do almost any immoral thing to defeat rivals to be the best?
I think we have to be careful. We should not generalize. And if I said anything that came across as generalizing in my talk, I should apologize. We should not generalize that all Muslims are inherently moral and all non-Muslims are inherently immoral. That's not true. You will see it. You are at university, you will have professors and lecturers who will go out of their way to help you, and they are not the same skin color as you, and they are not the same faith as you, and they have nothing to gain. So we have to be careful, because if you do that, if you come from it from that point of view, like I said, science and science and education is something which we can learn from everyone, and everyone can learn from us. And in fact, if you want to look at it, there's more corruption in the Muslim world. That's why we're here, right? We didn't come here for the great tropical weather and the tasty food. We came here because our land is where we come from. They tend to be corrupt, and it doesn't matter how intelligent you are. If you don't have the right surname or the right baradri or whatever, you won't get ahead. So in order for us, there are times in any field where people might get ahead because they're willing to do what you're not willing to do. They're willing to be cutthroat. And I would say to you that you have two options. You can either, you have three options. You can either do what they do and say, right, they're willing to, somebody else, and we shouldn't say Muslim, non-Muslim, it doesn't matter who that person is. Somebody else is willing to do something immoral to get ahead, and you're not. So you can either do what they do, and then you'll just be like them. Or you can say, I'm not going to do what they do, and you can fall behind. That's what people see as those are the two options, right? Either I become a failure or I give up my morals. And that's not, there's this third option, is that you have to just work twice as hard. Every good person, every person who's not willing to cheat, lie, steal, or be corrupt has to work twice as hard to get what they want, because there's somebody else who will be willing to. But that is the price you pay for honesty and for good morals, and that is a price worth paying. So work twice as hard. Why is that off the table? But if you need to work twice as hard, work 3 times as hard, work 4 times as hard. Put in your elbow grease. I'll give you an example. In hospital, this happens all the time. There are Muslims, right, who feel that, I can't take time off to go for Jummah because they have to disappear for half an hour every Friday. And I asked them, I was like, listen, guys, have you ever thought about giving up your lunch break? Because you're given a lunch break. Have you thought about giving up your lunch break? No. I want to keep my lunch break. I want to work just as hard as everyone else. So no harder, just the same, maybe less. And I want a favor. I want to go for Jummah. Well, don't be surprised if somebody turns around and says, no, I don't think you should have an extra half an hour off just because you're a Muslim. But if you work twice as hard, if you get in half an hour early, 1 hour early on Friday, if you tell everyone, I'm not going to take a lunch break today, I'm not going to have lunch, I'm going to get my prayer, please, I've come in, trust me, this is what I used to do. And my team, all of whom were non-Muslim, they'd be like, isn't it time for your prayer? It's your prayer time. You should go. I was like, it's an hour to my prayer. And then the nurse is like, you need to go for your prayer. Please let him go. Stop talking to him. He needs to go to prayer. I was like, guys, I have 45 minutes to my prayer. Let me worry about my prayer. You guys, everyone became worried about my Jummah. Everyone. The patients were worried about my Jummah. They all knew about my Jummah. They're like, no, it's his prayer time. Why? because they saw this guy, he came in an hour early for work. Every Friday he'll come in an hour because he wants to get his prayer time, and he goes without food. On Friday, he goes without lunch. I'll have my lunch when I get home. What's the big deal? I want to catch my Jummah. They respect you. They love you. You work harder, they'll love you. When I was in the hospital, everyone used to talk. There was a Dr. Yusuf, I think his name was. Every single person you'd see Essex girls, they'd be like, oh, Dr. Yusuf, he's amazing. Then you see somebody, the patients, they'd be, Dr. Yusuf is amazing. The consultants, it wasn't just like he's a nice person. They're like, he's a fantastic individual. And I'll be like, I want to meet this Dr. Yusuf. Who did I meet? A guy with a beard this long, wearing a hat, his trousers up, high. He looked like he walked out of a masjid. I was like, you don't look like the kind of guy that most people like. You look like the kind of guy most people report to Crime Watch or, report to the authorities. Why does everyone love you? I asked him this because I was literally surprised when I saw him. Why does everyone like you? And he was humble. He said, I don't know why everyone likes me. I pushed him. I said, there's got to be something different about you, because there are lots of other Muslims around and they don't think about them like they think about you. And he said, bro, I think the only thing I can say is that I never say no to anyone. I just want to help everyone. If there's someone who's struggling, like if there's a nurse who I can see that she's working really hard, I'll make her a cup of tea. If there's a porter pushing a big trolley by himself, I'll help, I'll push it along with him. It just, many hands make light work. So I always like to help other people, and it just makes my day when I help them. I was like, that's why people love you, and they'll do anything for you. Anyway, long answer to a short question. Please go ahead. Next question.
Jazakallah khair. No, that was a very good and insightful answer. Next question I've got here is, any tips for those who would like to leave some type of legacy behind or share knowledge with others but are very introverted?
Yes, being an introvert is a superpower in some ways. I'm an extrovert, but being an extrovert means you spend a lot of your time being extra, right? The introverts, they spend time on themselves. So you have a strength, and like anyone who has a strength, you also have a weakness. So work on that weakness of going out, of connecting with people. You have ability to share with others and how to connect with others and speak to others. It's something that you work on. The Prophet ﷺ was not an extrovert, right? He's not someone who delighted in the company of loads of people and talkative and whatever. Actually, he was probably more akin to an introvert. And yet, he did go out of his comfort zone sometimes to talk to people, and people never felt that he was always uncomfortable talking to them. So my advice, if anyone wants to leave an academic legacy, brothers and sisters, is you're not going to do it on your own. You cannot do it on your own. If you do try and do anything on your own, I guarantee you, it won't just not survive you. It's almost certainly not going to survive even your memory. I've got 20 years experience now in the ISOC world. Alhamdulillah. There are many brothers and sisters before you who've done amazing things, beautiful projects, worked so hard, put their blood, sweat, and tears. And if you ask them about it right now, they forgot they even did it. They forget everyone else. They forgot, oh yeah, I forgot I did that. Why? Because it was a one-man show. It were lone rangers. But it's something that you build as part of a team. You come together as part of a team, and that you work on as a team, and that you are dedicated, consistent towards, you will leave a legacy. The way I would describe it is, and I've said this before, so forgive me if you heard it before, treat your Islamic work or the legacy you want to leave like a wife, not a girlfriend. Or like a husband, not a boyfriend. What does that mean? Most people treat their passion, the thing that they want to leave behind, their legacy, like a fling. Today I'm interested in charity, I'll do a little bit of charity. Tomorrow I'm interested in history, I'll do a little bit of that. Day after tomorrow I'm interested in tafsir or this and that. They just move around from one thing to another. Every time something gets difficult, they just drop it. You know what? This is difficult. Just leave it. You know what? Don't like that person. Drop it. I don't have time. Drop that. You keep moving from thing to thing. Like people move through a series of partners. You have memories. You might forget some good memories, bad memories, but you don't have a legacy at the end of it. Whereas a wife or a husband, you think about, you reflect, you consider, you look at the options, you think, what fits with my personality? Not just my personality today, but my personality in 10 years' time. What will fit with my personality when kids are here? What will fit with when I'm busy with the work? What is it? What do I want to leave behind? And once you have thought it through and considered and looked at your options and researched and talked to people, and then you make your choice, then till death do us part. Then قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا, say, my Lord is Allah, and be firm. Stick with it and be consistent. Stick with it in the good days and the bad days. You know, like one of the secrets, people say, oh, you know, how do you know, what's one of your secrets with, say, Charity Week, for example? It's that I'm still there 17 years later. And if you're there 17 years later, you will have that much experience. You will have that much more insight, that much more, you know, you'll have the more positives, more ideas, and you will have more people that you can train and bring forward. And this applies to any other project. I've rarely seen consistency. If you really believe in a project and you really want to leave a legacy, choose wisely and be consistent no matter how difficult it gets. Whether consistency doesn't mean you always have to be 100%, but you never less than 1%. You never drop it. You have 100%, 70%. You're always balancing it, but you never just chuck it. Okay. I'm gonna try to keep my answers a lot shorter because I know it's Maghrib time coming up. So
yeah, I think we'll just end it there. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Wajid. We will have breakout rooms open after this if you guys want to discuss any of the things that the doctor spoke about. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Can I say one more thing, Shahid?
Yeah, go for it.
Just last point to my brothers and sisters, UCL, RUMS, Islamic Society. Like I said at the beginning, you all are the cream of Muslim society worldwide, not just here. And you have a responsibility on your shoulders. We're looking to you. We're looking to you for what the future of the Muslim world holds. We're looking to you to answer the problems that we have. We have huge problems. We're looking at you to help inspire the next generation, and we're looking at you to help bring us together. You have that responsibility, and it's too much for any one person to hold that responsibility, but together, if you guys unite together in the Islamic society, if you work together, don't leave it to 1-2 people to do the work, as happens all the time. If you renew your intentions and you get involved, put in the hours, put in the effort, put in the energy. If you do that and you follow, you know, be humble, be diverse. Where are our Somali brothers and sisters? Why are they making a samsak? Why are they not comfortable here? Where's the Bengali brothers and sisters? Where are the brothers and sisters who we might consider quote unquote less practicing? Where are the non-Muslims? Let's bring them, let's get them in here, and maintaining our own principles. I'm not saying giving that up in any way or diluting it, but bring them to this beautiful faith and religion in action. And you guys, if you work together, you can change everything. Inshallah, I'm confident you can do that, but you have to want to do it, and then you have to want to work together, inshallah, to do it. If you do those two things, inshallah, I hope, I pray, the day will not be far away when you will be the people that future generations talk about as in the legacy of academia. Like we talk about others, we'll talk about yourselves, inshallah. There's a great quote by Albert Einstein I want to share. Strive not to be a success. You're at UCL, you're already a success, inshallah. You'll graduate, you're gonna get a good job, you're gonna marry whoever you wanna marry, inshallah. You know, you guys will get what you want, inshallah. You got that thing. Strive not to be a success. Strive to be of value. Strive to be someone who makes a difference, inshallah. Jazakallah khair, subhanallah. I really appreciate your time.
Jazakallah khair, Doctor. Yeah, so we will have breakout rooms open shortly. So stick around if you guys want to just socialize with amongst yourselves. Yeah, we'll get that set up now.